So I think any entrepreneur should definitely be thinking 5 years out. If I want to exit anytime in the next 5 years, or if I think that's a possibility, or if someone came to me with a check, would I say yes? It's important to have your books in order. You want to be able to just show the trends, show that you're responsible, that you're paying attention, that things can be audited. It's so important for a buyer.
What you don't know is costing you commas and zeros. Welcome to the Owner's Profit Playbook. I'm Pat Mancuso. Most entrepreneurs think their biggest challenge is growing revenue, but the real problem is the profit leaks hiding inside their business. On this show, we break down the strategies, structures, and financial blind spots that separate struggling operators from truly profitable businesses. Because building a business is one thing, but building a business that creates wealth, that's the real playbook.
Welcome to the Owner's Profit Playbook. My name is Pat Mancuso, and I am excited to have you here today. We have an amazing guest with us, which we're going to get to in just a second. However, when you think about numbers, let's start off with when you think about numbers, most people don't like numbers. Most people don't even understand numbers, for crying out loud. And yet today, we're going to talk about why numbers are so important. So Rachel Wilson is our guest today, and her mantra is that your numbers aren't broken, it's just your systems. And so when we talk about most business owners, they think it's their problem is their numbers, but it's not. It's not the real issue. Now, they may have some issues with their numbers, there's no doubt about it, but it's what's behind the numbers. So today's guest doesn't just read financial statements, and she fixes what's broke behind them. From messy systems to disconnected data, she's the CFO you call when things don't make sense and profits aren't showing up where they should. Rachel, welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Pat. It's great to be here.
So, we're super excited. The premise of our show is profit leaks and helping owners to close those profit leaks, identify them, fix them, and then really help them. And that's the message. That's our mantra. So with your background and with your experience, that's why we invited you to the show, and we're grateful that you're here. So let's just kind of get on the field and talk about how did you become who you are today? Like a little bit of your background.
Yeah, I started in accounting work when I was quite young. I think I was 20. And I like to tell this story because it's kind of random. I was actually working for a mobile home park, and the owner of the mobile home park had me at 20 years old running his service department. So this is like a group of guys who were in their early 20s who went around and fixed the mobile homes, because any mobile home park owns the owner owns like half the mobile homes there, right?
Right.
So they're
right.
down there. I'm ordering paneling. I mean, anyway, I
have a friend of mine, good friend, who owned a number of mobile home parks.
Yeah. Anyway, and so, but here I am, a young woman. I just didn't feel right for that role, and eventually, he had his lead guy or whatever take over that role, and he had his bookkeeper come up, and I think she had an associate's degree maybe in accounting, and train me in doing some accounting work. He had like an old DOS-based system, but this woman was pretty good at it, I think, in hindsight, knowing what I know now and looking back, right? She had me do things like vendor reconciliations. She had me look at the balance sheet from one month to the next, highlight the differences, and then explain those. And so that's like really good foundational information, right? For someone who's going to go on to work in the general ledger. And anyway, I did that about 6 months. It was like I said, it was an old system. So the experience wasn't super transferable, but I got that balance sheet exposure and a little bit of exposure to the numbers. And anyway, I took some other job doing something else completely. And then I had a friend who started a mortgage company. This is in like late 99, early 2000. So it was like a .com, that was like during the .com stuff, right? And so it was a mortgage brokerage firm. And I went to interview to be a loan officer. I was in college at the time. And anyway, I went to interview to be a loan officer. I did that. And I went to say hello to my friend who owned the company after the interview. And we were talking, and flippantly, I said, I could keep your books for you, like that. And they were like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah. So I started keeping their books. It was QuickBooks 99 back when QuickBooks went by year. It was a program installed on the computer. I had a book, that talked about QuickBooks, and I just figured it out. And like I said, I was in college. And so I decided sort of along the way that I would major in accounting because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And so that's how I got my start.
I love it. I love it. So tell me something that people don't know about you that they wouldn't expect.
Gosh, I don't know what you mean by people, but I will say,
you shared some things about yourself that like most people may not know, right? So we're trying to have some fun with that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, I shared with you before we started recording that I actually have a podcast also, and it's very non-CFO, non-business related. And so it's called The Pussy Project. It's about the project of having a pussy. So,
oh my goodness gracious.
How's that? How's that for you?
I bet that's lively. That'll probably just alone on its own will attract massive viral response to our podcast.
Let's hope.
Oh my
yeah, for
goodness.
both of us. Yeah.
So, okay. So, talk to me about, so did you go to college for accounting? Okay.
I did. I graduated, yes.
CPA, did you go to CPA? No, not that
I did not go the CPA route. I considered it, but by the time I graduated from college, I was almost 28. And it took me 10 years for the 4-year degree. I was on that plan. And I wanted to have a baby. I was engaged to be married, and maybe I was 20, maybe I was actually 28. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was right in there. Yep. And anyway, I never did study for the CPA exam. I did have that in mind originally, but I didn't want to work in tax.
Yeah.
I wasn't ever interested in those 70-hour work weeks and that season and that sort of being the grind. So
sitting behind a desk, doing the same thing over and over and over. I get it. I get it. No, listen, it's ironic because that was kind of my journey. I thought in high school I wanted to own an accounting firm and be a CPA, and went to school, did an internship for a CPA firm as part of my college experience. And it was like, at that point I go, no, that's not my deal. And I went 8 years to school and decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur and have owned multiple businesses. So I get the whole trajectory there.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your desire to fix things. I mean, that's really, one of the passions in terms of financials and books. And where did you get that? Like, where do you think that passion came from?
Well, I think it came from just having a healthy ego with a hero complex.
I love it. Okay, more about
Frankly.
that.
But also it's the most fun part in many ways of taking on a new client or a new set of books and, taking something that just looks like crap and is not readable to, readable, timely, accurate financial statements.
Okay.
Knowing, as I've gone on in my career, there's so much of accounting that is repetitive. It's about consistency. That's very important. That is boring. And so there is something about that initial sort of like, oh my gosh, look what I can do.
I got a mess. Yeah. I got a mess. Yeah. Look what I did. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm good at that. I'm good at it. So that's always helpful.
So your world today, just so we're clear on the authority and credibility, is you are a fractional CFO today. That's basically what you do.
Yes. That is what I do for pay. Yes.
Yep. And so the reason I want to bring that to the table is that, we work with a lot of business owners, and one of the things they don't think about, and I want to see your thoughts on this based upon your experience, is that they don't look at the exit. And the problem by looking at the exit soon enough is their books are not usually in a position when they do decide to sell or they get a tap on the shoulder, their books aren't even anywhere near where they need to be to maximize their value. So in your experience, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think any entrepreneur should be thinking about of course they are. Most of them are thinking about the exit, maybe
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, every day.
It's like
They go,
buying a
what do I do?
boat,
This, I went out. Yep.
right? It's like buying a boat the first day and the last day or the best days or whatever.
Exactly.
But I think any entrepreneur should definitely be thinking 5 years out. If I want to exit anytime in the next 5 years, or if I think that's a possibility, or if someone came to me with a check, would I say yes? It's important to have your books in order. You want to be able to just show it, the trends, show that you're responsible, that you're paying attention, that things can be audited. It's so important for a buyer. As a buyer, if I look at someone's financial statements and they're a disaster, or there are things that are clearly just like off and weird, it's a turnoff, and it's a red flag. It should be.
Well, and you're right. And not only is it a turn up and a red flag, but it's really an opportunity for the buyer to beat the seller up on price. And, and again, that's what the numbers are so important, but it's not just the numbers, it's what the numbers tell us, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's what the numbers either, and it could be good or bad, right? The numbers could tell us something great, or it could certainly expose a blind spot. So let me ask you this question. So you go into a company and you're going to clean up their books. What do you actually do for clients beyond the numbers? And I know that's kind of a broad question, but talk about the specifics. Like, we have a premise on the show of profit leaks. And so talk about what you do beyond cleaning up the numbers that actually benefits the clients.
Yeah. Gosh, over the years, it varies by client, of course. It varies by engagement. It varies by all sorts of things. One of the things I think I bring to the table is a broader view. Like, I feel like I can look at the bigger picture and speak to things like, or maybe speak to isn't the right terminology, but make a difference in the areas of like cross-platform efficiency, automation. Certainly when the books are clean and they're consistent month over month, right, then you can start looking at where are the profit leaks? Are there expenses that are unnecessary? Things like that. And even just paring down, a lot of times there's duplicate work. If there's like a point of sale system and an accounting system, you might find that someone has been entering every single transaction into both of those systems. That may not be necessary, right? Let's just enter the revenue as a journal entry. If we need the detail, we can look at the point of sale system, that sort of thing. So I bring that to the table. I've done everything from reading commercial leases and, asking questions about CAM charges and, what that is going to look like, and sort of working with my clients on that aspect, insurance policies and renewals, payment, merchant services, right? And those agreements. And because, you save 2% on all your revenue, that can be huge, right? And then, yeah, I think did that answer your question?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, no, actually, and so you bring up some points. So here's a question. How often do you walk into a company and you find lost or forgotten about money?
Maybe every time there's, I feel like, especially in the cases where I'm walking in and things are not kept well, then it's impossible really to look with a scrutinizing eye if the information isn't well organized, isn't well presented, isn't consistent, if people are booking even just things like the utility bill, and there's like 3 months in 1 month, and then, right, just, if things aren't consistent, it's really hard to see what's off.
It's kind of like a puzzle with puzzle pieces in 2 boxes. You can't really put the puzzle together. Right,
absolutely. If you've got missing pieces and you can't see the whole picture. So, and I would also say that I think at any given time, any company whose financial statements I'm managing, there's always opportunity for scrutiny. Maybe every year so that could be looked at. There's always, in my experience, if some attention is paid, there are generally reduction to expenses that can occur. But I do want to say, and maybe this will change the direction of the conversation, I think most of the time, the financial problems are revenue problems. I think sometimes, there's opportunity, there's money on the table there for expenses. We're paying too much for this, that, or the other thing, right? But mostly it's a revenue thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sales always fixes a lot. It also covers up a lot sometimes.
It does. Yeah. So it can be, yeah.
So let me ask you this. What's the most common mess you walk into in terms of financials?
Oh, I mean, things like entering bills twice, vendor ledgers being a disaster, customer ledgers being a disaster. Generally speaking, people who are trained as bookkeepers don't know to look at the financial statements, so the balance sheet's usually a mess. Also, the chart of accounts, QuickBooks. I like to say the biggest problem with QuickBooks is that it's a great program. It just is. But in all of its greatness, it does things like alphabetizes the chart of accounts. Not useful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I would say the chart of accounts is usually where I start, and then I go to the balance sheet and so yeah, but vendor ledgers, customer ledgers are almost always a wreck, and the balance sheet's almost always off. And I always start with the balance sheet, of course, and the chart of accounts. Yeah.
So where do you, and this is an interesting question, so I got to read it the way that I want to read it so it comes across the right way. Where do business owners think they understand their numbers, but they don't?
Gosh, that's a good question. It's, I think it depends, but I'm going to answer it in maybe not the exact way, but one of the things I feel like I notice is that I see a lot of owners pinching pennies while dollars are flying over their head. Again, spending an inordinate amount of time questioning every $50 expense, while it's important to know what your expenses are and to have a good relationship with that, sure. I think it might be, I feel like often in that case, almost too much attention is paid on the numbers and not enough attention is paid on hiring decisions, company culture, customer service. Am I providing a good product or service that people want to buy? Am I, you know what I mean? Like sales, right? It's a revenue. Yeah. Problem.
So all the things that entrepreneurs need to be doing to be successful, they're not doing at the highest level. And unfortunately, the end result is like the historical data. That's the financials, their income statement, balance sheet, cash flow. That's all their historical data.
That's
Unfortunately,
right.
Everything that happened to make that historical is where their blind spots are. So,
yeah. And so again, let me just expand again, just saying like that, and that's valuable information, super valuable. And if it's a mess, it's a problem. Right. But really, I think as a business owner, your time is best spent in your gift, in your area of genius, and then maybe picking out a few leading indicators, right? If I know that out of every 10 customers I meet, I'm going to close 2, then I want to look at how many customers am I meeting each week, right? Yeah. What's this, that sort of thing. And so leading indicators, I think, is a place where a lot of times entrepreneurs don't know to look. And when the numbers are there, it's easy to want to, let's dive in there and check it out. And that's valuable, but sometimes missing the bill.
Where do you see the biggest hidden profit leak specifically?
Well, I mean, I think lost sales may be the biggest, but wages, right? I mean, wages are always the biggest expense. I think the biggest profit leak is around keeping people for too long in a position that they're not good at because you don't want to have a hard conversation.
Yeah.
It's really around managing your labor cost. I think that's always the biggest, right?
So let me pause there and say, okay, so you are talking about things that I have to be honest with you, in my experience, most accountants, and I would even stretch to CPAs, no disrespect to either entity, but most of them are never having these conversations with
Mhm.
business owners that they do this work for. So, like, how do you approach that conversation with the business owner that they're receptive to it?
I mean, they're not always receptive.
Okay, so
So,
that's
you
the
know,
whole point of asking the question,
right,
right?
right. So what I've done over the years and, sort of where I'm at now in my career is, I'm really only interested in working with owners who are looking at these things
Right.
already, who are interested in the development of their organization, as opposed to just,
I
I
just
don't
need
know,
somebody
like,
to do my books.
yeah, nitpicking. Right,
Right.
exactly. And so,
Right.
um, and I think so. I think it's really about just choosing the right person. But over the years, I don't have a problem just saying things like, like, this person is a cancer in this organization.
Right.
I mean, everyone hates working with them. Whatever. That's a big problem, I think. And so, I think just being direct is the best approach and the one I've found the most effective. And again,
Sure.
it's not always well received. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes they don't want to hear what they need to hear, right?
Yeah. And and it's a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of emotional intelligence and a lot of to have a difficult conversation. People don't want to do that. They avoid it for sure.
So, have any horror story about a company that you went into that you wish you wouldn't have gotten involved with? And how did
Mm.
that turn out?
Oh gosh, I wish I'd had some time to think about that ahead of time. You know, um, Not really. Like, I don't have a specific thing, but I do want to say this, that I have taken on work that I have then suffered in, right? Like, just personally as a person. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I've taken this on and it sucks, and and then I just have problems with the way things are being run, or, all the things, right?
Sure.
And I have recently had a real breakthrough in this area for myself,
Okay.
and that I'd like to share if you're open
Yeah,
to it.
absolutely.
One thing is, and this is contrary, I feel like, to a lot of sort of career advice, but one thing I've really noticed about myself is that because I have this desire to make a difference, because I feel like I can see some things big picture, sometimes I'll take on work or volunteer for things that no one asked me to do.
Okay.
Now, sometimes that has worked out ish, but mostly what I find is that creates, I don't really have full buy-in. So I don't really have then, like, the authority to call for cross-departmental communication about an issue when that needs to happen, to get the managers all together to make something smoother or better or more efficient. So I noticed that about myself, and I kind of stopped doing that and just really started listening for what the client wants and needs from me, and then providing useful feedback in those areas, doing my very best work I can, and noticing what I'm grateful for about the work, about the client, about the company, what's working, mirroring that back, and focusing on that in my own life has led to just a much more satisfactory work experience.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are unhappy at what they do, where they do it, who they do it with relationships with businesses, and life is too short. So,
Yeah. And just complaining. Oh, I mean, I love to complain. I'll just complain about how they're doing it wrong. And I just for myself, I was suffering.
yeah.
And I'm like, this, and I made it up. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you created it. That was
I
your fault.
created it, and then I'm at the effect of it. And yeah, so and the reason I said it's contrary is because I think there's a lot of value in being proactive and in bringing up ideas. And, so there's a balance there between really maybe hearing what people are ready for and are interested in doing, and then providing something in that space instead of something totally different, like
Absolutely.
changing payroll systems. Right? No one asked me to do that. I take it on. It's a huge pain in the ass. The data's, you know what I mean? And then I have no buy-in from anyone to come and learn about the new time tracking system or whatever. Right. But,
Your intentions are good and the results should be beneficial, but you do have to have buy-in. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Where do business owners accidentally create complexity from your perspective?
Oh, that's a good question. I think... I think having too many systems can create complexity. So I also feel like I don't really have a clear answer, but I do have experience with entrepreneurs who, when things are going really smooth, it's almost like they don't like that. And they will stir the pot, and make huge changes that don't feel well thought out. Then they don't have the buy-in from their staff. Right. And people are left resentful. So I think, does that answer the question?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And actually, that's true on both sides. In that when things aren't going well, they tend to be reactionary with no basis, no plan, and they likely take themselves into a different world that they may have been able to avoid if they would have not done that process, right? Sometimes you just have to slow down, assess the situation, and then, it's kind of slow down, stop to slow down, and then you can speed up. But that's not generally how most entrepreneurs operate, and therefore they get those type of results. So, question kind of outside of the conversation: have you ever gone into an organization where you developed fraud, and what did you do?
Oh, yeah.
Not developed fraud, but discovered fraud.
Right, discovered.
Yeah.
I was referred, this is many years ago, by the company CPA, who I had worked with a different, company, to go in. Was a commercial pipeline company. So they did those huge pipes right in the ground, just big, really big jobs, multi-million-dollar jobs, often. And their bookkeeper committed suicide. It was tragic. And so he literally died. So there was no one to talk to about what was going on in the books, which is a unique experience. I mean, I've taken on new books before, but often there's someone, Anyway, I found, this is back years ago, and I found the little book, right, with all the passwords, and I logged into the payroll tax system because the manager was like, I'm concerned about the payroll tax. They had payroll every week. I went in and they hadn't paid payroll tax in 18 months to the tune of 10 grand a week. So it was shocking, or maybe it was 2 years. I don't know. It was so long. And I was like, okay, something's wrong here. What's going on? And as I dug deeper, what I discovered is that bookkeeper was out of his depth. He did not know what he was doing. He was not trained. He was a drug addict. So there was that. I found multiple cases of fraud where he was paying himself and then deleting the checks from the system, right? And so he paid himself twice often. He wrote, checks out of the system, deleted them. The owner was also a gambler, and he was writing off his gambling or he was taking money, he wanted to write off his gambling losses through the company. I mean, it was crazy. The guy hadn't filed, he sent W-2s, but hadn't done 941s, and everything was culminating And I really feel actually that the owner has, had a moral responsibility in this case, because this was a young man and he had a drug problem. Never let someone with a drug problem in charge of your money to the point where they can sign checks and stuff. Like, come on. And then also, yeah, he was just in over his head, and it was all about to crash down. Like, the IRS had started sending letters about these W-2s that people had filed, and they had no record of these wages.
That develops really quickly as soon as they discover it.
And so the owner was not opening his mail. Open your mail from the IRS if you're the owner, right? Have a relationship with your bank balance.
Yeah.
Like, pay attention. And in this particular case, it was life and death. I mean, this kid killed himself. And I'm sure that was a huge contributing factor.
Wow. Well, there's a lot of stories of fraud, and it happens a lot more often than it should.
Yeah.
And so I want to tie that question to the next question, because I have an answer, but I want to hear your answer. What one report, we know there's multiple ones, but what one report should every owner truly understand?
I mean, I really think every owner should understand the balance sheet.
Okay. So that's the big one for you, is the balance sheet.
I mean, in terms of fraud looking, or just in general?
Yeah, I mean, like, if there was one report that every business owner needs to truly understand, and by the way, there's no right or wrong answer.
I know, that's a tough one.
Yeah, but I think balance sheet is a really good one, and yet would you? Because I think it is like one of the best ones. But would you agree that most business owners do not understand what the balance sheet represents?
Yes.
Yeah,
I would say that's right.
So the one that they should most importantly understand, they don't understand it.
Right.
And what's interesting about that is, and again, I go back to I'm not downplaying accountants or CPAs, but I look at a baseball coach and I go, okay, so if I'm coaching baseball, whatever level it is, what's one of the first things that I teach my players? Now, you might talk to 10 coaches and they might give you 10 different things, but it's the fundamentals.
Yes.
And we work with so many business owners, and we worked with about 800 business owners over 18 months. And we, as part of what we did for them, we collected their financial statements, their balance sheets, their tax returns, everything that they did in their business operations. It was shocking to me to see the income statements and the balance sheets of these businesses, and then have conversations with the owners, and they're like, I had no idea. And I go, whoa.
Yeah.
And that really brought us to what we do today. And that's why the what you don't know is costing you commas and zeros conversation that we have with business owners is just, it's so important. And so you're tying that into the reports and how important it is. So if you are an accountant or CPA and you haven't sat down and taught your business owner how to read their balance sheet, I think that's one of the most important things you could take away from the call. And if you're a business owner and you don't understand it, go to your accountant or CPA and ask them to explain it to you. There's no shame in doing that, because if you don't understand it, you can't possibly understand the success of your business. You can understand it from a daily basis, but you can't understand it from a long-term perspective.
What's your answer? What's your answer to the question?
It's going to surprise you probably, but it's cash flow statement and bank statements.
Yeah.
The cash flow statement is the most important thing to me, because it tells me where I'm at now. And the balance sheet is important. I don't think there's necessarily, in fact, I would make this argument. I ran a series of 6 franchises for a long time. 6-7 years. And one of the things that franchise system did was required that as the operator of that franchise, we understood accounting statements. We taught it to our franchises. And I was one of the instructors that did that. And so we had multiple reports. And one of the things about the reports is understanding. And I'll tell you, for me, to answer your question directly, the most important thing I looked at every month before we closed out the books was the general ledger. And I didn't, and I know people are going to go, why would you do that? Well, first, I can understand what we're spending money on versus a line item on an income statement, because on an income statement, it doesn't tell me the 12 things we bought at Office Max or wherever we bought it, but it also tells me how I'm in alignment with my budget. And so for me, that was one of the most important statements first, because it told me what was going into the income statement. And then the income statement would then go into the balance sheet. And I almost looked at it to say that's the most important thing first, because everything else flows from that. But that's just me. And I'm a little crazy and weird. So people will go, yeah, that's not how I look at it, but that's how I look at it. So, okay. So let's go.
I can see you moving now, but I can't hear you. You didn't mute yourself, did you?
There you go. Yep.
Okay.
So you frozen a little bit. Yep.
Okay.
So let's shift, and I'm going to ask you this question. What one question should a business owner ask their accountant this week? And what one question should an accountant ask their business owner, ask their accountant, and an accountant ask their business owner? What one question from your perspective?
I think a business owner should ask their accountant something along the lines of, you're in these numbers at a detail that I'm not. Tell me what I should be looking at. What am I missing? Is there anything I'm missing? What areas should I deep dive?
That's a great question. So flip it over. And
then I think an accountant should ask a business owner, actually maybe the exact same question. Is there an area that you would like me to provide analysis for?
Sure.
Is there, or maybe even just what do you think is making the biggest difference in the company, the state of the company and the finances of the company at this point? Because going back to my listening for what the client, where they're at, right, what they're interested in, this will give you an insight as to what's important.
I love it. And I think it's a great way to kind of tie out our conversation here today. So if today's episode made you realize the numbers might not be telling you the full story, there's a good chance you've got profit leaks hiding in your business. So before we leave, Rachel, what one last thought would you share with our listeners?
I would share, and I've said it already, but I'll say it again, that if your books are a mess, clean them up. Get someone who's good at it. Just get it handled. It's important. You need to have consistent, timely, accurate financial statements. Look at them. Open your bank statements. Open your open the mail from the IRS and the bank yourself as the business owner, right?
Please open that mail from the IRS.
Yes, I would say that. And then I would also say that once the books are clean, be looking at company culture, hiring decisions, customer service, sales. Where am I delivering a product or service that people want and need? And am I doing it the very best I can? Yeah. And when your books are clean and you create an initiative of some sort, then you can really measure the effect.
Yeah.
If they're chaos, you can't tell.
No, absolutely.
Something's working, but I don't know what, right?
Everything's working and I have no understanding why. I get it.
Yeah.
Well, so listeners, first of all, if anything resonated with you today, we have a number of services at the Mancuso Consulting Group. You can check those out at www.mancuso.com. I do want to share with you two things right now. I'm not sure the timing of this episode. One has a time element to it. The other one is not time sensitive, but both very important. If you are a business owner and you may be doing technology related activities, the research and development tax credit right now was adjusted through the BBB. That is something we can help you with. Many times owners think they may not be eligible for that tax credit, and they certainly could be. So understand there's a process to evaluate that. But really, this one is not time sensitive, and that is healthcare benefits have risen to incredible levels for employers and also employees, because employers are sharing the cost with employees. We have a strategy in a company that we work with that can help save health benefit costs 30 to 40%. And the average health benefit cost to an employer, according to the Wall Street Journal, about 2 months ago was $27,000 a year. So imagine a company that's got 200 employees and their healthcare cost is $8 million a year if they could save $2 to $3 million on their health benefits, and we can help with that. So if you are in need of any of those services and beyond that, we'd love to help. Rachel, if somebody wants to reach out to you and talk to you about your services, how would they do that?
I mean, the best way is to call me on the telephone, like the olden days, or email me. I actually do not have a website for CFO services. I am on LinkedIn as Rachel Wilson, Rachel. And I can say my email address and my phone number, or you can put them in the show.
No, just say it. It'll go in the recording, and then I'll do it.
Perfect. Okay, my phone number is 719-233-6856. Again, 719-233-6856. My email address is rachel@satoribusinessservices.com. All one word, 3 S's in the middle, and I chose it myself.
I love it. I love it. You don't just focus on numbers, Rachel. I love it. You're always marketing.
Yeah.
Well, Rachel, thanks again for your time today. We really appreciate it. Listeners, please subscribe, share this episode, and we love to bring great talent like Rachel to the show, and they will come on as the podcast continues to grow. So thanks so much, everybody. Rachel, thank you so much. Have an amazing day.
Thank you.
Take care.
If you're serious about building a more profitable business, make sure you subscribe to the Owner's Profit Playbook so you never miss an episode. And if you know another business owner who could benefit from this conversation, share it with them. To learn more about how we help business owners uncover hidden opportunities and strengthen their financial strategy, visit mancusocg.com. And remember, what you don't know is costing you commas and zeros.